Hello and welcome to Ask Mayor Miller. I'm your host, Civic Journalism Senior Fellow Liz Fabian at the Murphy Center for Collaborative Journalism. Each month we sit down with Macon-Bibb County Mayor Lester Miller and find out answers to your questions and questions from our journalists here at the CCJ. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Mayor.
My pleasure.
Well, you know, the amphitheater seems to dominate all the public's interest at this point. GPB's Josephine Bennett wants to know if you're surprised by the success of the venue so far.
Not at all. We expected this from the beginning. Certainly nothing surprises us. We're still, we learn something from every show. So each show so far has gotten bigger and bigger each time. As last weekend was no exception to that. So we're excited about it. We can't wait until they'll get a full season underneath our belt, look at the numbers, and build on it for next year.
And CCJ's Debbie Blankenship said, considering the success of it, what do you think the timeline will be to get some more economic development out there? I mean, I know we've been talking a lot about that restaurants will come, maybe hotels, things like that. Anything timeline-wise that you could share?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of ourselves, but I can say we're in some good conversations with some hotels and some restaurants, and I expect to get some activity prior to next season, of course, on the Old Charlie's, and good prospects on a hotel and some new development on-site and off-site. So as the numbers come in, like if you build it, they'll come. People are coming in droves. Everybody's having a great time there. The numbers look really great, so people are getting very excited about investing their own money at the mall, so we're excited about that.
I think I saw the most recent concert was the most well-attended.
Right.
And how many people was that?
Over 8,000, which is the biggest one so far, which will be the biggest one in Macon's history for a venue. And it was a good crowd. And some of those bands that opened up for Turnpike Troubadours are also going to open up for Rolling Stones. So it's got some good segue there and some local connections with Cobb there as well. So I think things are only going to be bigger and better.
You weren't saying the Rolling Stones are coming.
No.
No, they're opening for the Rolling Stones someplace else. Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Well,
although we do have an end. We
do
have an end with that band, don't we? And I know you monitor social media, so it's probably no surprise to you that there have been just a few complaints. Josephine was noticing one about video monitors for this facility. I think for the Boombox Fest, they brought in their own huge monitors and stuff. Are there plans to put up monitors in the facility that will stay, or do you need to keep having it available however people want to design it themselves and bring it in?
So if you watch me on social media, you'll learn that for the 1,000th time, this is what I tell everybody, for 1,001, we purchased long ago some screens that'll go up.
Okay.
And they were stuck in customs for a while in California. Now they're arriving on the way to Macon now. And they'll be installed just as soon as we can get them up here in Macon. Most artists bring their own, whether it's 2 or 3. We purchased 2 of them a long time ago, and we're waiting for them to be installed. It helps some visibility on the lawn, but you really can see anywhere inside the venue. But just for the 1,001, 1,002, when we hear about the next time after the show this week, if they don't have their own, they're on the way. They'll be installed, and we didn't want to delay opening up the amphitheater and missing out on the 4 or 5 great concerts we had so far just for a few screens that most artists bring anyway.
I see. And then, of course, I think there might have been a scuffle or two, a little fight or something at one of the concerts, but I understand from people's comments, they said they didn't even know anything was going on, and that others who saw it said security had it handled. Well, so what kind of security, can you explain the security operation that you have there without getting into too much detail?
Well, just to say we have a security staff inside and outside the venue. We've got constant monitoring of the parking lot. We have some sheriff's deputies doing control outside for traffic. And then we have our own personal security team that works for these types of events inside the house. I was at all the concerts, didn't notice any disturbances at all. I did see some indication there was some fight between some women at one of the events, but they quickly were taken care of during one of the recesses. And no harm, no foul. It's one of those things when you have adults there and they're having a great time, and sometimes they have conflict. You may have something like that, but it's nothing unusual.
I know during our tour, you showed me where all the security people are and all of the monitors that are there, so they're under watchful eye at all times.
Oh, no doubt. It was well secure.
Okay. The only other thing that I saw was one of the last ones about the lights going off right at 11. Is that because of the noise ordinance, or was that just a glitch in the electrical system on that time? Or
Neither. What happened is that some patron had a little bit too much fun, and they pulled the alarm. And when alarms get pulled like that, certain things happen. So it triggered safety and security measures, which basically cut the lights off on the stage. It's one of those things, just a learning curve. So now if it ever happens again, we got a quick fix for that right away. So we want to make sure that it was not a true emergency somewhere. It took about 10 minutes for a delay, and then they went back and played 2 additional songs, which is great. But nothing to do with the time. We made everybody get off the stage or leave there. The people who stayed for the entire show and knew what was going on had a great time. And like I said, they played way more songs than we thought they would, and they made good time on that.
But you do have a kind of hard and fast, right?
11 o'clock is supposed to be the time that we, for noise ordinance-wise, and if somebody goes over that time, there's a $1,000 fine. So most of them observed that, and sometimes things happen. Like we had the rain delay. We were willing to let them go over a little bit because of the rain delay just a couple of weeks ago. But even then, everybody got out of the venue within about 35 minutes in the entire mall parking lot. So that's great as well.
And Macon-Bibb County recently broke ground over there at the Cliffview Park off of Houston Avenue. Can you explain to the folks what you're planning over there?
Well, sure. We expect by the fall to have it complete. This is a 2018 SPLOST project that was never completed. And one of the things we want to do during our administration is make sure we check all the boxes from the previous SPLOST that people wanted done. That's a great hidden gem over off of Houston Avenue. It has fish in the pond. It's got some hiking trails there. It's going to have some pavilions there for people to have birthday parties, reunions, for kids to play, to build up a neighborhood behind it. We expect a lot of housing to go there. Some homeowners will be there. Part of our Macon-Bibb County Affordable Housing Fund will be used in that area to loan money for new housing in the area. So it's going to complement things that we've got going on there, some paving, some demolitions, but also first choice primary care, where you have a pharmacy and have a medical facility nearby there as well. So we're breaking ground on that, and probably in the next 4 or 5 months we'll have a completed facility and people will be able to enjoy it.
You mentioned housing, and Sharon Mims has a comment and a question. She says apartment complexes and lofts are being built all around Macon, but there are not many options for newly built quality homes and nice subdivisions. She said, are there any plans to build affordable housing similar to what she sees in Warner Robins, Centerville, and Byron?
Well, Warner Robins is not building any more houses that we have. They have availability of land because nobody's really lived there outside the base for a long period of time. But we have more houses being built in the last several years than the previous decade. Right now, it's all money situation and financing. A lot of times you get these tax credits for certain properties, the large ones that you see out on Riverside Drive and some off of Zebulon Road. Those are all because of tax credits. They pay taxes just like everyone else, but they're able to do that because they meet certain qualifications to get what we call cheap money. Our $7.5 million we have for our affordable housing fund is going to drive investment back to infill some of these neighborhoods, but also if you go out toward Toby-Sofke, if you go to sub-South Bibb County, you'll see a lot of houses being built that people want to buy them. There's several hundred just out on the Hawley Bridge Road area itself being built, as well as by the lake and some in North Macon as well. I think you'll see the same thing happen as soon as we get the East Bank project completed in East Macon. You'll see some development there too in the next couple of years. And
I should tell Sharon too to just pay attention to the planning and zoning coverage that we do here with the Center for Collaborative Journalism, because a lot of these developments that stalled 2007, 2008 with the housing crisis they're coming back with revised plans, and they want to go ahead and fill out those others. So there is some movement going on.
Right.
And we were talking just about Cliffview too, but recently at the last Urban Development Authority work session, Chris Sheridan came by and he wanted to explain the expansion plans for the Okmulgee Heritage Trail. Of course, Chris was one of the spearheads, about 25 years or so ago. And now the plan would take it up toward Bass Road and down even near the Walker Road landfill and possibly over to Milledgeville with the rail line. And so I was doing some research and I saw that when it started, the plan was like from Juliet to Warner Robins. And there was talk with the National Park about going to Hawkinsville with the Greenway and things like that. Have you heard anything from your neighboring mayors that they're really on board with that kind of interconnected trail system throughout central Georgia? And what do you think about expanding? And I guess I'm going to throw another question in there, and how do we pay for it?
Well, I think we're always interested in expanding. First of all, we want to take care of our own community. Macon-Bibb County is our first primary goal as far as that's concerned, and we want these neighborhoods to be connected. Even the mall area there, not only talking about North Macon, that's just a small part. It's about connectivity through all of our areas there, Pleasant Hill on the outskirts, East Macon over there in the Nottingham area. We want to connect to all those parts first. Of course, the mayor in Milledgeville are happy about connecting there as we get the National Park on board. And in the very near future, we're going to basically connect all these other places. So you're going to see some expansion in a lot of ways. The funding is going to be mostly grants. And there's some public-private relationships that we're talking about right now, some donations that we're going to get that I think are going to be substantial, but all that's going to be pending approval of a national park.
And of course, with the interstate construction going on there, I think they were even lamenting that that's kind of thrown the Riverwalk a little bit off kilter, because folks used to go down there all the time. But I can imagine now, if you can get into it from Shirley Hills and you can get into it from downtown and Riverside Park, other places, it will be Pleasant Hill, because the trail system would go all through there.
Just growing pains. I think as soon as we get through 2028, when they complete that section of the interchange, things will be a little bit more smoother, and we can start, laying some concrete there and getting the trails completed.
Okay, now shifting to public safety, our CCJ partner Grant Blankenship says that as he's keeping track of the homicides reported, we're now only just a couple of numbers shy to date where we were in 2022, and we know how bad that year was. He's also saying that he's noticed the Mayor Pro Tem and others, yourself, talking about how the MVP program is being a success. So he was curious about how you measure that success.
Well, we measure success a bunch of different ways. Number one is our MVP program was targeted toward youth. And I think if you look at the numbers strictly on youth, other than the one teen homicide we had here recently, it's been non-existent for a while. Down over 70% on youth committing crimes and being victims of crimes of the violent nature. So that's one way to measure the number of people getting engaged and involved and getting therapy they need through our mental health program. The solvable rates that we have for our technology that the Sheriff's Department is doing, those are ways we gauge that. I really try to caution people about putting too much emphasis on the previous years as opposed to right now. We were down 40-something% last year from the previous years, and we're still at or below where we were last year. But you go back 2 years ago, you can't really gauge 1 month. And April was not a great month for homicides, and you take that out, and we're probably at the lowest level since pre-pandemic numbers, which is great. So last year we had a quiet summer. Hopefully we'll have a quiet summer this year. So I think at the end of the year, we'll be looking either at or below where we were last year. But we're continuing to build the program, the Macon Violence Prevention Program. We have some new items that we'll be discussing this year that's going to be upcoming. I think it'll take that further. But we also have a sheriff's race coming up too, so you're going to have to look and see, who wins that position, whether or not they got the same ideas, some new ideas, and what other type of collaboration we can have with the Sheriff's Department and our county to try to move it forward. So it'll be an interesting time over the next several months to see how things all play out.
Originally, we had 6 candidates in the sheriff's race, but Marshall Hughes and Ron Rogers were disqualified by the Board of Elections because their fingerprinting wasn't done within the deadline. Both of those candidates are appealing to Superior Court. What is your thought about that? Do you agree with the Board of Elections decision, or do you think that the court maybe should reinstate them and call a special election?
Well, I try not to play lawyer very often when I'm not getting paid to do so. So, I really hate it for both Mr. Hughes and Mr. Rogers. I really wish we had all the candidates in there laying out their platforms and let the people decide. I know there's a hearing, I think, set up this week, so we'll be interested to see what the Superior Court judge that they have coming in from another county will do. And I think that hearing will probably determine that. Interesting enough, the ballot doesn't have their names on there, so I'm not sure how that'll play out. But, I think there are some rules that need to be followed, and sometimes people have to follow those rules or pay the consequences. But certainly we wanted everybody to have a fair shot at being for the position that they asked for. But sometimes, the law just dictates what we have to do, and I just trust the courts and the lawyers to do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, because I attended that hearing, and there's a little bit of nuance too. Like, one candidate was told he needed to have that form. Another asked, have I done everything? And they said yes. So we'll have to see what the judge says. Also, Macon Water Authority candidate Desmond Brown has raised some concerns because campaign signs are not allowed out at the mall. He says your administration is abusing its authority by restricting the signs on the property because you're not putting out candidate signs this year. So what do you think about his concern? Because he says not everybody's watching the political ads on television, and that's his campaign method. And usually when you go to a polling place, there are all those signs outside of 150 feet of that location, but there's no signs allowed from Hull's property policy or urban development.
Well, first of all, since you brought up Desmond Brown's name, I don't put any great weight or credibility to somebody who swindled people out of their money before as a contractor. Strictly don't. But outside of that, anybody's sign who's illegally placed needs to be picked up. Doesn't have anything to do with Lester Miller has signs out there or not. I chose not to do that because I see the great abuse that we have out there. When we were on the Westgate property, Macon-Bibb County didn't own that. The owners of that property didn't enforce the nuances that were out there. It just litters the road, and these people can't, these candidates can't just think that they can put their signs on any property they choose, whether it's a right-of-way or private property. I stopped someone from putting a sign on my property recently, and I asked them, "What are you doing?" And they said, "I'm putting this. We're off the right-of-way." Well, just because you're not on the right-of-way, you're still on a personal property owner's property, and you can't do that. I don't make the decisions for the mall entirely. That is by the Urban Development Authority in Hull. The 150 feet that they talk about, that means you can't put something within 150 feet of either the building, the premises, or that. But you still have to either own the property or have rights to that property, and certainly people that were putting signage at the mall don't have the right to do so and shouldn't have the right to do so. The last thing candidates need to see is pressure being put on them by thousands of signs as they go into a place, especially when Macon-Bibb County, through the Urban Development Authority, owns part of that property. So we're going to continue to enforce the laws. This is not new. If you Google signs, campaign signs in Macon, you'll see for the last 3 or 4 years, we've been telling everybody for the last 3 or 4 years that you shouldn't place your sign on property you don't own, and you should not place your property on the right-of-way. We've also had a lot of people that call us into our office and say, "I can barely see when I'm going to pull out into an exit or an entrance or an intersection, and I've almost gotten a wreck 2 or 3 times because I couldn't see over there because these signs are blocking every stop sign that you get to on every pole." And it's a safety issue as well. But right now we're just following the law. People know what the law is. If they thought it was such a great thing, they would come out there in the middle of the day and put those signs up, but they come up in the middle of the night, put them up, and they're blitzed the next day. And I imagine you're going to see people breaking the law too. The night before election on May the 21st, they're going to go to every single precinct, and they're going to put all those signs illegally on people's property that shouldn't be there.
Now, our CCJ students have been delving this semester in issues concerning blight, air property, illegal dumping, and such. I know you've just taken down the 700th building and counting, probably more since that day, but what is your strategy going forward to address illegal dumping, blight, and other issues?
Well, we're going to continue to take down the dangerous blighted structures that we have, 709 as of today. At the same time, we're continuing to build up neighborhoods. This is the $7.5 million we mentioned for the affordable housing plan. We're working with Habitat for Humanity and other people that are in the process of building things there. So we're going to continue to try to infill a lot of those places there. The illegal dumps are being taken care of through some cameras that we're putting out to catch those people that are illegally dumping. People are starting to report it now, even with tag numbers, so that's a good thing. They see something, they say something, and we're going to do something about it. We're going to continue to monitor that process to keep our community clean, and we're going to continue to be enforcement where we can and prosecute the people that are violating the law. So I think it's great that communities are starting to get involved in this process now, and I think over the next couple of years, our our demolition is going to go down, which is a great thing because our code enforcement is doing a great job of preventing blight before it happens now by having some good enforcement.
One of the main issues is heirs property. When somebody dies and either they don't have a will or they leave it to their whole family, and then you have generations come and then you may not have the means to fix it up. I feel like I'm asking you for more legal stuff now and I don't have any money to pay you, but is there anything that you've thought about in terms of trying to help in heir property situations?
Well, we've done it, by the fact, not just thinking about it. We did a pilot project not too long ago where we set up RFP out there for lawyers to get involved to give us a guaranteed price to do a certain amount of heirs property. And what we got them involved in is a particular area in Unionville and looking at these properties and actually paying them to represent one of the owners of that property to try to clear the title. So our hopes is to try to clear those titles, consolidate that into one person in the family, whether it's purchasing someone out or seizing the rights of someone, so that they can borrow money on the property, can repair the property, fix it up, borrow money on the property to address a lot of those heirs property. We're also using our land bank authority to take care of some of those needs. Some of those goes through the land bank, and it basically clears the title on those properties so they can become inhabitable or purchased and sold at a later time.
And I know last month you said you were purposefully not talking about the national park designation, but you have been talking recently about moving forward with East Bank, at least trying to get a project manager for that. Is there anything you can tell us before we can go?
Well, I think we're selecting a competent group to do that. We should have some community engagement very soon. I expect we'll have some good news on the national park prior to the announcement from the master planner. So the stars are lining up for Macon-Bibb County, and we're going to see where it takes us. But I think next month we'll be having a very different conversation.
All right, and next month, when we meet again, the election will be over. So we'll be talking issues again.
That works for me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you for joining us. Remember, this is part of your program too. As always, anytime during the month, you can send us questions for Mayor Miller to mercerccj@gmail.com, and we'll ask those questions the next time he's in the seat. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.